You know, realistically, I think Nobunaga has been the MVP since Hunter x Hunter returned. He just is doing the coolest stuff. They're focusing very heavily on him. I don't know if Tagashi just felt like he had to follow around a brutal, intense, very focused, highly confident swordsman, but I appreciate that about him, and I value Tagashi for that. Also, let me just grab this, because, I keep this off to the side of the desk. Anyway, but since we're talking about Nobunaga a lot today, I think I need to grab my sword and then I get into character because I don't know. I gotta grow my hair out, get some long hair, put it in a ponytail. That's no, you guys, you don't want you don't want to see that. But this chapter has Nobunaga and Hinrai as they enter into whatever this location is that the Hyali has been kind of like hanging out in and transporting all of these people from all of these various rooms, killing them and consistently leveling up over time. And they're inspecting it and they don't really see anything. And then they finally come to this room where they open it up and there's a bunch of people just kind of sitting at a table, just kind of there chilling. They're not paying any mind to Nobunaga or Hinrai. And they don't even seem like they're paying attention. And when I saw this for the first time, just waving the sword around while I'm trying to do a review. When I saw this for the first time, I was thinking a couple of things. I was thinking that they weren't actually in this location. Like maybe it was a bunch of Nen, sort of like the old man from the room that was made of Nen, a little bit of a distraction. It could have been people that were just created by Nen. Or it could have been showing us a room that's not even here, but showing us a different room. Maybe this room is empty or filled with traps and people are in another room. You never know with Hunter x Hunter, and that's why I love it so much. And that's why I love Nen as a power system as much as I do, because you can never really tell exactly the direction that something is going to go, and you can never really say who has the advantage until all the cards are on the table. A confrontation in Hunter x Hunter is kind of like playing a game of poker, or maybe more so a game of chess. It's seeing what your opponent can do, seeing the levels that they have of, the competence of their ability, and then looking forward to see how you might anticipate that they would strike once you figure out how their ability works. And no matter how powerful you are on your own, there's always that chance that that person gets a lucky break. And the Phantom Troop realize this because they're professionals, right? They are people that have done this a million times. And Nobunaga, throwing the door open, he knows that he wants to just bum rush in there and just kill all of them. But he's intelligent enough to know, obviously, in a Nen battle, you don't know what abilities these people have or if this is even an actual group of people in this room. So you have to test, you have to experiment, you have to see where they are, you have to see where their competency lies, you have to see how their ability works with yours. And I love that kind of stuff, man. It's just so, it feels like such a rare thing nowadays to have these, head game kind of battles within a manga like this, rather than it just being the strongest character. I also realized I didn't have my Hunter x Hunter background on when I began this review, so the beginning of this video was probably heavily cropped. I apologize about that. That's very unprofessional of me. Clearly, I did not look at my Streamlabs Nen ability to overcome the obstacle until now. But I corrected myself. That happens in Nen battles also. You kind of correct about halfway through, right? But in order to see what is actually going on in this room, Hinrai throws one of his knives. I love how he's a knife thrower. There's something about that I really enjoy. I like throwing knives at things as well. Not people so much, but, whatever. Anyways, he throws the knife in, and he hits the dude right in the temple. But the dude doesn't seem to care, and he takes the knife out, and half of the blade is gone. But it didn't break off inside of his head or anything like that. It just seemingly disappeared. Turns out his Nen ability, he's an emitter that can basically move the damage from one location to another depending on what his left hand is touching. So that's the condition. Again, the thing that makes Nen awesome is that you have to put conditions on it to make it more powerful. And the heavier the restriction of the ability, the more powerful the specific thing it's supposed to do is. So I like that. So his condition is, I gotta be touching something with my left hand, or if not, he's going to take the damage on himself in his left arm, left hand, left arm. And that does also happen in this chapter. So the first time he touches the soda can, the knife goes into his head, the blade it disappears from here, appears into the soda can. So that's how that worked. And then secondly, when the other character gets up, who's the legal advisor of the Hyali, which is hilarious considering they're a mafia group and they have a professional legal advisor. He stands up, and Nobunaga ties a tether to the very bottom of his sword so that he can get it back. So he chucks it into this dude's forehead, but the other character didn't have enough time to touch something with his hand. Well, he had like half the time, so he like went to go touch the table. The sword was a little too fast, so he started to take a little bit of damage on his hand. But that also means that the tip of Nobunaga's sword was then taken away from his sword, and it's now just kind of laying. Where is it? Is it in the dude's arm or is it in the table? I forget, but it's somewhere. That's not where it's supposed to be. And being the huge Yu Yu Hakusho fan that I am, and you know Togashi also creating that series, when Nobunaga kind of he released part of his aura, you know, he did it and it covered the edge of the sword that he didn't have, kind of like replacing the tip of it, which I thought was cool. And it was kind of reminded me of when Kuwabara first got his spirit sword, how he used the broken piece of the wooden sword and created the sword like out of his spiritual energy. Maybe that's something that Nobunaga can do, because, well, obviously he does do it in this chapter where he kind of like uses his nen to replace the broken bit of the sword, but maybe he can just create an entire nen sword if he could. But I don't know if he can, because when they got to the ship, he needed to go get his sword. He needed the priority. He was like, we have to go get it from the storage or whatever. So I'm wondering if he needs the sword in order to be able to do that, or if he doesn't. Because later in the chapter, he does lose his sword, but when Hinrai appears in the room, he grabs at his sheath as if he's going to draw his blade. Maybe it's just an instinct. Maybe he has the sheath of the sword still, so maybe he just instinctually went to how he would draw, realizing his sword is gone, so he can't. Or maybe he can create some sort of like nen energy sword. I'm not sure. I also thought, you know, if the more of the troop had been here, like if Franklin, for instance, had been here, they wouldn't have had to worry about throwing actual physical objects into the room. He could have just like done his nen emission bullets and probably taken everybody out. I don't know if the dude can swap damage from nen itself rather than physical objects, because he had a knife he transferred and he had a sword he transferred. But if somebody literally just shot like a blast of nen at him, I don't know if he would actually be able to transfer the damage. So that's something to look forward to, perhaps. But the legal advisor, you know, this lame dude here, he starts pulling up these like they look like little robot men basically, but he is a conjurer, and he conjures these things out of nen. And the interesting thing about them is that they cannot inflict damage, but they can also not take damage. They are basically invincible, but they can't hurt you. But what they can do is remove you from the room. They are an eviction. I think the ability was called Eviction, I think, or something like that. I have to double check. I read the chapter, but it's not up on the screen right now. I'm trying to go from memory. But yeah, so they're called Eviction. So they grab Nobunaga. They actually take his sword away, which is crazy because he can't damage them, and they managed to do that. So his sword got stolen and now is in the hands of the members of the High Elite. So that's a problem. And then they evict him from the room, and they evict Hinrai from the room. But before Hinrai gets taken out, he does manage to plant the tracking device in the room, which is where they're trying to find the actual location of this place. They were, you know, they went there through the trap mechanism that was put in place, but they don't know where on the ship it actually is. But now they can. And I do believe that, according to the last chapter, that Finks and Phaeton have the tracker to know where the tracking device is. So they don't know that Hinrai and Nobunaga are no longer there, but they have the location. So I believe in the next chapter, we're probably going to switch over to Finks and Phaeton and see what happens when they enter the room. They also don't have any emission abilities, I think, that would be useful here. I don't think that Phaeton would use his ability on the ship because it seems too destructive. Finks definitely could, but it does require close physical contact. So I don't know. This is why nen is awesome. That's why nen is the shit when it comes to power systems and power abilities, because you got to think, okay, how does it work as opposed to this setting and this location and these characters, you know? So that's the greatest thing about it. Now, in the preview for the next chapter, which, by the way, will be chapter 400, it does say that the troop is going to investigate, so there's that, so Finks and Phaeton, but it also says the princes take action. And it's been a long time, ever since the return of HUNTER x HUNTER, we have not focused on the princes. We've only had one chapter that alluded to Serenich's kind of group of friends that are worried and nervous about him, and he's still locked in his room perfecting his Nen techniques. By the way, Serenich asked to see Melody and have her brought to his room like forever ago. That still hasn't happened, or we haven't seen it happen yet. So there's so much stuff going on. We haven't seen Kurapika at all since Hunter x Hunter came back. But when you spend, 2 or 3 chapters in a flashback, I guess that'll happen. But it's just one of those things because it's been like 3 years or 4 years, for however long, since we've returned to Hunter x Hunter, and I feel like the next chapter is going to be the last one for a while because it'll be 10 chapters total, which is what we thought Togashi had made. Now, recently, information had come out that he has 30 chapters worth of story written, but story and actually drawing it into manga panels is different, and so that's a longer process to happen. And also, he has released 10 chapters in bulk before and then taken hiatus after 10 chapters. So not only are we getting chapter 400, we're also getting our 10th chapter. So we might only have 1 more week of this for a while. Now, I don't think that Hunter x Hunter is going to take another 3-4 year break, but I do think that we might be experiencing a break. And I understand that, and it sucks, it sucks, but I think we got to enjoy it, and hopefully, I hope chapter 400 is a banger, you guys. I hope 400 is the best chapter of the entire bunch. I hope that it shows Finks and Phaeton throw down, if that's the direction it goes. I hope if it cuts back to the princes, we see Serenich as like a just monstrous master of Nen with 2 Nen beasts, ready to just figure out what is happening with the Hylia, his and Morena. Maybe Morena gets a hold of him. I did think, wasn't there was a line of dialogue where Morena said that she was going to get in contact, or they lost their contact with Serenich. I forget. Somebody refresh my memory on that. There's a lot of information in this arc, so it's hard to remember it all. I think I do a pretty good job. I do a decent job, but I'm not perfect with it, But anyways, guys, if you have read chapter 399 of Hunter x Hunter, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts, your theories, your ideas of what you think is going to happen next. And also, if you were like me and all of a sudden Nobunaga is slowly rising in your favorite Phantom Troop members, man, I don't know. But then again, maybe it's because he's going to be the first to go. You know what I mean? Like, we might be building him up to break him down. I have no idea. But let me know what you guys think. Also, if you would like, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I hate having to tell people to subscribe to the channel, but I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers, and I would love to get there. So if you helped me on my journey, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you do want to support the channel on that deeper level, I do have a Patreon merch store and channel memberships turn on. So, pick your poison, whatever you want to do. Also, all memberships get the same perks, so it's your choice, $1, $5, or $10, up to you. Or don't. Doesn't matter. But what you should do is get a sword and read Hunter x Hunter.